The fence wasn't tall, just 4 feet high, but it was tall enough to shut out the poison she poured into the air every single day. I didn't build it to make a statement, not really. I built it to breathe, to guard the little patch of peace I had carved out for myself after decades in the courtroom trenches. But she saw it as a challenge, as if the mere existence of boundaries offended her personal crusade for control. Karen Murphy believed her HOA presidency gave her the right to dictate the color of people's mailboxes and apparently the architecture of their inner peace. I remember the first time she stood in front of it, red-faced and shouting, her phone already dialing 911. She wasn't yelling at the fence, she was yelling at the idea that someone dared tell her no. She thought I'd cave like everyone else. What she didn't know was that I wasn't just a guy growing tomatoes and raising chickens. I was building something else, quietly, methodically. A legal case so sharp it could gut her entire operation without breaking a sweat. I'm James Peterson. I'm 52. Used to be a city lawyer until I cashed out early and bought 5 acres just outside of Meadowbrook. I had this picture in my head. Quiet mornings, homegrown vegetables, maybe the occasional stray rooster drama. Instead, I walked into a battlefield disguised as suburbia. Karen had been HOA president for 3 years by then, running the place like a petty dictatorship. She'd fine you for your grass growing an inch too long or for hanging Christmas lights past January 7th. You think I'm exaggerating? Ask the Johnsons, they got fined for planting lavender. Now, I figured living out on the edge of the community would keep me out of her crosshairs. Boy, was I wrong. The moment I put up that little fence, just 4 feet, nothing fancy, everything exploded. See, my land bordered this path people like to use as a shortcut. I never said they couldn't walk through, I just didn't want random folks letting my chickens loose or stomping through my squash patch. So I built the fence, left the gate open most days. That was it. But Karen. She showed up with a manila folder like she was about to serve me a subpoena. Your fence violates HOA rules. You have 72 hours to tear it down or pay $500 a day. I calmly told her the road was on my land, private land, and I had every right to fence it in. Her face turned the color of bad wine. That road belongs to the community, she snapped. You can't just block access. From there, things got theatrical. She started organizing peaceful protests outside my gate every morning at 7:30 sharp. Her and a couple of regulars with printed signs chanting about stolen access and neighborhood tyranny. They blocked my driveway, forced me to ask them to move just so I could go buy feed. They called the cops like clockwork, trying to paint me as some aggressor. Officer Martinez came so often we started joking about having coffee together. When that didn't rattle me, Karen escalated to social media, created a group Save Our Neighborhood from Property Bullies, posted sneaky photos of me watering plants like I was a terrorist, narrated videos like she was the Discovery Channel voiceover guy. Here we see the predator in his natural habitat. It would have been funny if it hadn't been so effective. Suddenly, businesses I'd supported stopped serving me. Henderson's feed store, the local coffee shop, they all cut me off, afraid of losing business because of Karen's smear campaign. But the lowest blow, at the next HOA meeting, she held a public vote to officially ostracize me, made it look like some democratic process. Ballots and all. 167 people voted yes. That one stung. Not because I needed their approval, but because some of those people had eaten. My tomatoes smiled at me in the mornings, waved while jogging past. That's when I knew it was time to stop playing defense. What Karen didn't know, what no one knew, was that I was about to be appointed as the legal arbitrator in a class action suit against the Meadowbrook HOA. 47 residents from different parts of the neighborhood had secretly filed complaints about her abuse of power, the weaponization of HOA policies, the harassment campaigns. And guess who the court picked to handle the case? Me. So I got to work. I dug through records, unearthed decades of documents. Turns out my land had been zoned agricultural since 1973, totally outside HOA jurisdiction. And that community path, never officially designated, it was a shortcut allowed by neighborly courtesy, not law. I found bylaws, county maps, old survey records. And that's when Margaret showed up. Margaret Chin, the HOA treasurer. She met me in a diner 2 towns over and slid a folder across the table. Bank statements, emails, receipts. She's been using HOA funds to hire lawyers. Not for the community, for herself. $47,000 in just 18 months. The emails were damning. Karen had been instructing the HOA's attorney to fabricate violations, escalate complaints, scare people into compliance. I remember one line exactly. Make the notice sound official and threatening. He needs to know that fighting the HOA is fighting the whole community. So I waited. I let her think she'd won. Then the night of the big HOA meeting, I walked in wearing a charcoal suit instead of my usual flannel. Karen was halfway through her victory speech when the back doors opened. Judge Rodriguez entered with 2 clerks carrying official court files. This is the scheduled hearing for Residents versus Meadowbrook HOA, she announced. Karen sputtered, claimed it was a mistake, but the judge laid it out clearly. 47 residents had filed formal complaints, and the court-appointed arbitrator, yours truly. You could hear a pin drop. I walked to the front, opened my briefcase, and began laying out evidence. Land records maps, bylaws, photos, financial reports. Margaret stepped up with her documents. Judge Rodriguez read aloud Karen's emails, every manipulative, arrogant word. The crowd shifted. People who had voted against me looked horrified. One parent yelled, "So that's where the playground money went?" Another added, "No wonder the streetlights haven't worked in 2 years." Karen tried to rally, claimed I had bribed people, manipulated the court, but no one was buying it anymore. The judge didn't hesitate. Karen was stripped of all authority, ordered to repay the misused funds, and banned permanently from holding HOA office. She walked out, not in triumph but in disgrace, escorted by her husband, while 200 neighbors watched in stunned silence. And that's when the healing began. Karen's house sold quietly to a military family. Margaret became the new HOA president, won nearly unanimously. The bylaws got rewritten, the vibe changed completely. People started decorating their homes freely again. Kids played outside without fear of HOA letters. My farm became the heart of the neighborhood. We renamed the old path Peterson Trail. I hosted Saturday morning farm schools for kids' parents came too. Businesses welcomed me back, offered discount support. The coffee shop even set up a little legal help corner where folks could get advice over lattes. A local journalist picked up the story before long. National outlets were calling. I got emails from all over, folks in Florida, Arizona, Oregon, asking how to fight back. So I started something new. Community Legal Solutions. A quiet little practice out of my barn, helping people take back control from overreaching HOAs. Sliding scale fees. No one turned away. And 1 year after the night everything changed, we held the first Meadowbrook Freedom Festival. Music, food, kids laughing, neighbors talking like neighbors again. Margaret gave a speech that night that I'll never forget. She said, "We learned that justice doesn't show up on its own, you have to make it, together." And she was right. That fence still stands, but now it wraps around a garden open to the community. We even planted flowers where Karen used to protest. The sign reads, "Grown by community, shared by community, protected by justice." So I ask you, when authority crosses the line, who do you stand with? The ones holding the clipboard or the ones holding the truth? Let me know in the comments. I've told my story, now it's your turn.